This episode of Characters Face Off has been brought to you by GameStop.
I'm sorry, you're saying there's a multiverse?
Hey everyone, this is James Hernandez. What is up? How you all doing? And welcome to the 7th episode of Characters Face Off. With me is my very special guest, my best friend named Pete Rivera. Pete, say what's up.
Hey everybody, it's nice to see you.
So before we start this video, why don't you tell anybody about your channel in case they're unaware?
Oh, right. Today this video is also brought to you by, that is to bring up to my latest video into my Ready Player Pete show that is like how and why that I will share my thoughts. What I like, the video game is a 2-action combo pack called Call of Duty Black Ops 1 and 2.
That's exactly right. If you guys have not seen his channel called the Ready Player Pete Show, be sure to subscribe to his channel and give him so much luck. So, for today's episode, it's going to be a battle between two animated movie characters. So we have Shrek from DreamWorks versus Mr. Incredible from Pixar.
Yeah, exactly.
So, the question is, who's going to win this fight?
That is a very interesting question there.
So let's find out. So, let's talk about Shrek, shall we, since he was made first.
Alright, let's get started.
As we all know, Shrek is the main protagonist of the Shrek franchise. He is Fiona's husband, Donkey and Puss in Boots' best friend, and the ogre triplets' father. When Shrek was 7 years old, his parents actually sent him off to live on his own as a 7-year-old ogre, to follow the ogre rules. He lived by himself in the swamp for many years before meeting, well, Donkey, of course.
That's right.
However, it wasn't so long until fairy tale creatures were forced to move into Shrek's swamp by Lord Farquaad, the ruler of Duloc.
Yeah.
Now, to get his home back, Shrek and Donkey traveled to Duloc so they could get Shrek's ownership of his swamp back. After confronting Farquaad, he and Shrek made a deal. If Shrek can rescue Princess Fiona from her castle and brings her back to Farquaad, he'll get rid of all the fairy tale creatures in the swamp.
Yep, that is right, because the Lord Farquaad, he is the first villain of Shrek, because he's forcing the fairy tale creatures not to go back to their normal lives because they have been forced to go to Shrek's swamp.
That is exactly right, Pete. So when Shrek and Donkey travel to the castle, they rescue Fiona and they decide to bring her to Farquaad. But somehow, Shrek and Fiona actually begin to fall in love with each other before the misunderstanding thing. So Shrek heads to Fiona's wedding to reveal his love to her, defeating Farquaad in the process, and then Shrek and Fiona lives happily ever after until the rest of the sequels.
Exactly.
So now let's talk about his powers and abilities, shall we?
Oh, let's get right to that.
So one of his abilities is that he has super strength, which he can actually smash through doors, uproot trees, and take out armed knights. He even survived through the fall off the roof when he gets beaten up by the dragon during the events of the first one.
Yeah, because in the dragon fight, that when Donkey is got alerted by the dragon because he didn't realize the dragon was awakened in the castle.
That is exactly right, Pete. And also, his most disgusting abilities he has is his fart, which you can see in Shrek's Super Slam, which he actually can send opponents crashing into structures and sending them flying away. Pretty much like how Wario from Super Mario would do.
Yeah, that is exactly about that.
The other disgusting ability that he has is his burps, which you can see in the first Shrek movie when he plays the All-Star music. You see he actually burps the flame, which he actually can set fire.
Yeah, it's the same old, like in the beginning of the movie.
Like, can you imagine that Shrek can actually do that to any of his enemies?
Of course,
for self-defense.
Yes, for self-defense, but he really doesn't done it on purpose.
That's right, Pete. And now his next ability is his wrestling attacks. He's actually very well skilled when it comes to wrestling skills in close combat. Like, you see how he was managed to fight Duloc's top 15 knights.
Yeah, because it's like facing them in the WWE ring.
That is right, just like in wrestling. And also the next ability he has is his roar, which he can scare almost any human who actually trespasses in his swamp.
Yeah, because everyone doesn't even read his signs? Is beware.
I guess they completely just like look at his signs and then they completely had nothing to deal with it.
Yeah.
So that's what causes Shrek to scare them away.
Yeah, because he says beware and keep out.
And despite being, well, a chubby ogre, he's actually pretty agile. He can actually jump, flip, and swing away around environments to avoid obstacles. Pretty much like what you see in Shrek the Third. He also has the fire breath, as well as the force field, which you actually can see in Shrek Super Slam. The equipments that he has are 4 potions. The orange one, he can increase his strength. The blue one can increase his durability. The red potion can actually heal him. That can actually can heal him, and then he can use his green potion to turn his opponents, get this, into frogs. Which is something I don't think we actually had never heard of.
Exactly. Because we'll never know.
Like, what is next that he can transform into his opponents into? Like llamas?
Oh, yeah, things are getting a bit strange at the times.
Oh, and get this. He can also use the invisibility potion that he actually can turn himself invisible, just like in Shrek Super Slam.
Yeah, but you know what? I really missed that game. And that game that I've been played for my entire life.
Same here. It's pretty much like Super Smash Brothers, but with Shrek characters.
Yeah, I really like it. When I beat the entire story.
Now, Shrek has defeated all 4 villains throughout the whole movies. He even saved Princess Fiona from her castle. He was strong enough to uproot trees and push down the giant potion container, like when you see in the second Shrek movie. He defeated Dulox's top 15 knights. He broke a metal door, outran a dragon. His roar is strong enough to push multiple people. He scares away any angry mobs who enter his swamp. His fart is so strong enough to kill people, which is like pretty dark.
Well, I don't want to even imagine that.
I'm pretty sure that's pretty disgusting. He can create candles out of his earwax, which is so gross.
That's because he's always doing things like that. Is very not necessary.
That is right, Pete. He can also dodge arrows from crossbows, like when you see in Shrek 2 in the factory. He can also take shots from the fairy godmother. He lifted a large metal gate. Since he weighs about 600 pounds, he can travel from his swamp to the mountain during the winter in Shrek the Halls.
That's right.
But however, Shrek is not perfect. Because he has a low self-esteem, his roar doesn't always work on other creatures or other monsters. And of course, he's also antisocial, and he has a low self-esteem, and he was actually about, get this, his major weakness is that he is nervous about being a father.
Oh yeah, how did he see the look on his face when how did he react if he's gonna become a father?
Yep, because Shrek wasn't ready for parenthood, you know.
Yeah, because being a parent is it's really a big responsibility.
A lot of responsibility, just like how parents do in real life.
Yeah, but you're gonna have to take it.
But despite all his flaws, Shrek is a heroic ogre in the fairy tale world, and no matter how can you put this? No matter how much we're scared of Shrek, he will always be the heroic ogre in the fairy tale world, and the world needs him.
Yeah, because as you see that Shrek is in the beginning that he wants everyone to be afraid of him, and in the second movie they're still a little bit afraid of him, but in the other movies they're probably starting to get used to him.
Now let's talk about his opponent, and that is, say it with me,
Mr. Incredible!
Now, Mr. Incredible is one of the main protagonists of the Incredibles movies. He is Elastigirl's husband, Frozone's best friend, and the father of Dash, Violet, and Jack-Jack, and he is the leader of the Incredibles.
Yeah!
During his earlier days, Mr. Incredible was one of the most iconic superheroes. But however, during the Sunsweat vs. Incredible court case, he was forced to retire from hero work and live a normal life. Only because he actually caused a major destruction when he was trying to save Buddy Pine when he was Incredible, who wants to be his sidekick, but then he rejected him.
Right. Because this very disrespecting part that is probably that he keeps on saying how many times that he has to tell him that he works alone and he doesn't need a sidekick. But including that Buddy Pine, that he said that what he said is true. What he said to Mr. Incredible, not every superhero has powers.
Pretty similar like other superheroes, pretty much like Batman, or even one of the Watchmen superheroes.
Exactly.
except for Dr. Manhattan, of course.
Yeah.
Anyways, now only known as Robert Bob Parr, he took a job as a claims adjuster for the insurance company, but he was eventually fired for hurting his boss, Mr. Huff, by throwing him through the walls. 3 walls.
Oh, that part is way big laughing stock of what I see.
So when Bob married Helen, also known as Elastigirl, before the anti-hero thing happened, and he had 3 children, Violet, Dash, and Jack Jack. Now, despite living a normal life, he desires to return from his hero work, so he teamed up with Frozone to save people from the burning fire. Although they get into trouble by the police due to the mistaken as robbers, but they did manage to escape unharmed. Mr. Incredible was later returned to do hero work where he thought it was the US government, when he got the message from the woman named Mirage.
Yeah, because she's making Bob Parr, also known as Mr. Incredible, that he wants him to be interested, that he wants to face down that robot and ride it into the jungle.
That's exactly right. Which he did agree to battle the giant robot like you mentioned, only to reveal that the robot was made by, guess what? Syndrome, who was working for the perfect any killer robots to kill any other superheroes. Mr. Incredible and his family defeated Syndrome and his robot and were allowed to resume superhero work.
Yeah, because he has to return life to his superhero life because he's been retired for so long.
Mm-hmm. And he's pretty happy that he's back to be a superhero. Now let's talk about his powers and abilities, shall we?
Let's get right to it.
So the first ability that we all know from him is his super strength. He is probably one of the strongest superheroes in his world, making him one of its most premier heroes. He was able to lift heavy weights, crush small items in his hands, and punch with a great amount of force, pretty much like how Shrek does.
Yeah, because his strength, he almost because that kid, he saw him lift up a small car in the parking lot.
Pretty much like how Superman was able to lift.
But he's almost exposed that he thinks that he's a superhero, but he's now retired.
And then he has enhanced durability, which he was unable to move quickly and jump high and far. When he's able to dodge from Syndrome's robot when he would shoot lasers at him. But we'll get into that when we talk about his weaknesses. But next, let's talk about his weapons. Now, we all know that just like Shrek, Mr. Incredible doesn't normally carry weapons, but he's actually excellent at imprising weapons from items at hand. Like, for example, he actually threw a boulder at Syndrome's robot during their duel. He knocked out a guard with a coconut. And of course, he even threw bombs at Bon Voyage's helicopter in the Incredibles game. And it causes Bon Voyage's helicopter to fall down.
Because he threw his car up there?
Yep.
Oh my god, that cracks me up. That cracks me up when he threw his car up the Syndrome's jet, and then when he gasped like that. Oh no! Boom! That makes me laugh.
And it's also pretty dark when he does that.
Yeah.
And Mr. Incredible has defeated Syndrome's robots and the guards. He barely stops a speeding train, and he actually, get this, he took shots of 100,000 volts of electricity. He threw his boss, Mr. Hoff, through 3 walls in his job before he got fired. He defeated Syndrome by throwing, like you mentioned, his car at him,
yes.
Which is one of the darkest deaths in Pixar history. He has defeated, and get this, he has defeated COVID-19 when he teams up with the likes of Superman, the Hulk, and Leonardo.
Yeah, because we've seen that kind of video.
Mm-hmm. And he even teamed up with his family in Frozone to save the day, and he saved the guy from jumping off the tall building, which you see at the beginning of his glory days.
Yeah, because they place it on the news.
Mm-hmm. However, while Mr. Incredible might be incredible, and he may not have any superhuman weaknesses, that doesn't mean he's flawless. Because living a normal life without being a hero can actually make him feel depressed, and during his middle age, he has back problems.
Oh, that is just really bad.
His weakness is that he's not always that much of a team player until he learns that he has to work as a team. He can also be kind of stubborn at times.
Yeah, because if you see he works alone, there when Syndrome exploded the plane, when Helen Parr, also known as Elastigirl, and also Dash and Violet, when they say they got a confirmed hit, that target was destroyed, but that has probably been a little way off of Syndrome that he preferred to work alone. Well, that is way off.
But despite Mr. Incredible's flaws, Mr. Incredible will always do what it takes to save the day, and that's why he is known as Mr. Incredible. Well, this research is funny, but let's hold our laughters and talk about who wins. So Pete, I'm gonna let you share your opinions on who would win. Who do you think is gonna win, Shrek or Mr. Incredible?
Well, for my opinion, I do when Mr. Incredible does his superhero days, but exactly, I'm gonna say that to myself that I have to give up to place myself to Shrek, because Shrek is very he's very good at really good fighting and wrestling wrestling of his own abilities when he's facing in Duloc.
Yeah, like when he was like fighting Duloc's top 15 knights in the first movie. Let's also not forget the fact that Mr. Incredible is also very skilled with combat skills. So I think in terms of combat as well as wrestling skills, this will be very tough, because both of them are super strong. They're both are extremely agile, and they're both are extremely durable. However, I would say that when it comes to power, I would definitely say that Shrek actually got Mr. Incredible beat. Even though that Mr. Incredible can be actually one of the most clumsiest superheroes around. But that's besides the point.
Yeah.
But if the fight takes place in Shrek's swamp, then it would actually be very interesting to see. So overall, while Mr. Incredible might have super strength, I think Shrek's power and durability and his intelligence will outsmoke Mr. Incredible until he'll tell him that his glory days are over.
Yeah, because there's only one last thing.
And what's that?
The thing is that if he keeps refusing the Buddy Pine as an Incrediboy to become his sidekick, how could that Mr. Incredible, that he wants Frozone, that he wants him to be his own sidekick, because they are best friends.
Well, to tell you that, Pete, there is a difference between a sidekick and a partner. Basically, Frozone is basically more of Mr. Incredible's partner than a sidekick.
Yeah.
Well, of course, Shrek's sidekick is Donkey and Puss in Boots.
Yeah.
So I would say that when it comes to a one-on-one fight, I would definitely say that Shrek will teach Mr. Incredible to not trespass in the swamp.
You know what? I think I agree with you, because between sidekick and partners is probably many different things.
Making this character's face-off's winner, Shrek.
Ha ha ha!
So guys, thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. I also want to say thank you so much, Pete, for joining me on this. I know you've been wanting to be my special guest for this episode.
Oh, anytime in any place. If you ever need any of me in your video, I'll always come by, and I'll be very highly of support.
So you guys tell us in the comments below, who do you guys think is going to win between Shrek and Mr. Incredible? Comment below and let us know. And also, feel free to subscribe to my channel, hit that like button, and turn on the notifications. Also, feel free to subscribe to his channel as well. So, Pete, you have any final words to say?
Yep, and when you do it, I probably, if you hope you enjoyed this video, and this video it is always gonna be keep on running with James Multiverse and a Ready Player Pete show. So those two channels will always still be sponsored.
So thank you so much for watching, guys, and we'll see you guys next time in the next video. All right, so long, folks.